What is going on, guys? This is the 5 Yard Pass podcast with me, Suddy, and this is Sham, continuing the coverage of the Euro 2021 fixtures. It's been great, man. 3 rounds of fixtures. Essentially, every team's had a fair crack, maybe bar North Macedonia. I think every team's had a fair, and Turkey, surprisingly, your surprise outfit had a
Yeah.
crack at it. Could have
Well,
gone through in the
they
last
were,
round.
in my defense, they were very surprising.
They were surprising, yeah.
Just the wrong way.
But I think the story of the first of these kind of the last round of fixtures so far has been the Danish team. Lost their first 2 fixtures. Obviously, Christian Eriksen going down with a cardiac arrest. I think everyone wrote them off, but everyone wrote them off with a bit of a heaviness in their heart in the last game. I didn't think that they'd make the 3 goals, and they did. 4-1, beating Germany. Well, I mean, there's not much to say, man. There's not much to analyze the game. They just went for it. It reminds me of a cricket or like the last couple of overs of a 2020, or it reminds me very much of a very specific game, Eagles versus Collingwood in 2007. I think it was the semi-final, and it went into extra time, and Collingwood just went for it and just gave everything they could. It's one of those kind of games. You could draw comparisons to so many kind of very prominent sporting moments. Does this draw comparisons to the '92 team, which just historically went in because Yugoslavia was kicked out? So they got a wildcard entry and they went on to win the Euros, obviously. Huge moment for the Danes. Any comparisons?
Not really. That team. Yeah, I don't think that there's that many comparisons that could be made in that regard. I mean, it's meritorious that they've got through to the knockout stage and they've done really well. And I get a bit tired of people drawing analogy like lines here and there. It's a very significant achievement. People
Yeah.
forget Denmark's only got like 5-6 million people. It's got the same battle population as New Zealand.
Mm,
People forget. So for them to
mm,
advance this far is an incredible achievement, and particularly when you lose your best player, and particularly when you lose your best player the way that they did. That squad would have so much resilience about them, and just like they just went for it because they had nothing to lose, and it came into place because they did the work. And you could see at the end of the game, like they were playing really good football. They went for blood. Russia is one of those teams that can be a bit up and down, and they caught Russia out in that sense. It was sort of you could see that the Danish players were not happy at the penalty being conceded, and then
hmm
as in like they didn't think it was a foul, and it somehow that inspired them and motivated them. And I think even they needed the Finland game to go their way as well, and that went their way quite well.
Yeah.
I think it was nil
Well,
at half time in that game. The things just sort of clicked into place for them. And congratulations to them. It's an incredible achievement, even without what's happened. And they are the first team in Euros history to lose their first 2 games and make it out of the group stage. So that's obviously a very significant achievement.
well, I think if you talk about populations, you're talking about a group with Finland, Belgium, Denmark. I think collectively, if you put their population together, they don't get to about 10% of Russia's with 150 million people. So for those 3 teams to do well against Russia is a big achievement. But I think what maybe you're not highlighting, you know this, but you're not highlighting is the fact that Denmark do have a bit of a golden generation, including Ericsson if he was to play. Who knows? They might have done better, they might have done worse, but they have Braithwaite, plays for Barcelona, Delaney, Højbjerg, Christensen, Vestergaard, Schmeichel. Like they do have very, very arguably world class players who could play for probably any side in the world.
They've typically only had 1 or 2 world class players at a
Yeah,
time, but they've got about 4, 5, 6 like genuine
yeah,
international slash world class players. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So they've gone through. It was a huge achievement. I think every team in the world was going for every fan in the world besides Russia was going for them. And so fair play. We'll move on to more kind of more exciting stuff. So we have three group games left to go. Okay, we'll start off with England's group. We wanted to go through by group by group. I think that's the best way to do it. We're looking at the England group now. Okay, Czech Republic, England, Croatia, Scotland. Perhaps the most underwhelming team with expectations is England this round. This Euro fixtures. These European Championships. They've been very underwhelming. But in that group now, every team can go through. England play Czech Republic, Croatia play Scotland. The big news coming out of Scotland in the minute is that they lost Billy Gilmore, who had a great game against England. England themselves have lost Chilwell and Mason Mount. Supposedly they've lost those two. Do you see any scenario that England and Scotland don't go through? Do you think England don't beat Czech Republic?
It's interesting because what happens in these Euros is that the top two go through, and the four best placed third place teams go through. Now,
Yeah.
you've got Group B and C. The teams are on 3 points. The third place teams in those groups. In Group A, they're on 4 points. So if you get all the teams know that a third place finish will get you through to the second round, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no team on 0 points. All the teams have points, so every team knows if they win, they're through. It's full stop. Drawing takes it out of
Mm-hmm.
your hands a bit. Now, the England group's interesting because the Czech Republic and England are on top, and then Croatia and Scotland are behind. But those teams are playing each other. So Croatia and Scotland, if one of those teams has a result, they could knock whoever loses out of England and the Czech Republic out. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because the Czech Republic and England could just do. In Spain, they call it the white briefcase, where you sort of rig the. They both know draw gets them both through, and they could rig it to get a draw.
Yeah.
I say rig because they won't, but
Yeah.
that would knock both of those teams out and makes Croatia Scotland a real must win type game. England Czechs are interesting because if England don't win, they will have more pressure on them. This supposed golden generation is going to win everything, can only win one game in the group stage. So they'll be hungrier to win than the Czechs who know that a draw is enough. So if it's a draw with 20 minutes left, England are more likely to attack a bit more than the Czechs. The Czechs are underrated. I think they're a very good tournament. So that could play into the Czech Republic's hands. Croatia Scotland's interesting because I think that Croatia have the one out of those two teams, the one genuine superstar, Modric. Watching him, it reminds me of Pirlo at Euro 12. He gets the ball and everyone just stops and watches him pass. Like it's crazy. Like Modric gets the ball and the whole game stops and everyone just waits for him to do something. And so much respect is given to him.
Mm-hmm.
However, Scotland do have one player who would be perfect to neutralize him in Scott McTominay. Just tell Scott, go Monk Luca.
Yeah.
Scott, that's what he does.
Yeah.
That he'd be awesome at that. So that would be very interesting in that game.
He actually played really well against England. He played in the three-man defense on the right side. I thought he did quite well. He did that for Mourinho in Mourinho's in the middle stint of Mourinho's days when Mourinho only trusted people rather than the position of players. So he played Scott McTominay. So I think that's a very good point there in that you can see Modric potentially being taken out by McTominay, and surely Grealish and Sancho have to start this game.
Yeah, Wayne Rooney made some interesting comments. He mentioned that because Foden plays for City, it's a real pass and move type strategy where the players don't have an understanding of where each other are moving. So you get the ball, you pass it, and then move into space. It's someone like Donny van de Beek for United, for example. I think he's struggling a bit at United because he hasn't got pass and move players around him, but he's a pass and move player. So Phil Foden's got the reverse situation going on with him, where the only other player he can really link up with is Sterling, who's on the other wing. So Rooney was making the point that players who get the ball and dribble at defenders, and he specifically mentioned Rashford and Grealish were the two players that he mentioned would be worth a crack. Now, neither Rashford or Grealish play on the right wing, which would indicate Sancho would be someone worth considering, or even putting Raheem Sterling on the other side and seeing what happens. England are very, like for all the good players that they have, their play is quite predictable. You've got the back two, the fullbacks push up, the wingers push in, Calvin Phillips pushes up. There's predictable movement. And it's a shame because so many attacking players are so one-footed that what the movement in that sense is predictable, particularly in international tournaments because players are less familiar with each other. If you've got Sterling on the left cutting in, or Rashford on the left, and then Foden on the right cutting in, you can read that. And particularly with Scotland with a three-man, if you're playing three plus the wing backs, that's a lot easier to mark. That's why Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had that success with the three at the back against Man City before that break. So what you need is someone who, when they get the ball, you don't know if they're going to run at the goals or run at the corner flag and hit across. I think that's what England need.
Yeah.
The other thing that they potentially could do, which Foden and Sterling don't do, is Harry Kane likes dropping deep and knocking the ball onto someone who runs onto it, like a Son, for example. So someone who runs past the last defender or makes those types of runs. To me, that screams Jadon Sancho. And that's the type of player that he is. And Grealish, I think, he's been England's best player in the warm-ups and hasn't got a minute during the tournament. That to me is criminal. And I've not
Mm,
watched a lot of Villa. I had a bit of a man crush on him. You remember after the Wolves game earlier this season where he was
yeah,
absolutely brilliant. I think
yeah.
you quite like him as well. He to me he's got all the attributes of a number 10, and I've seen a lot of other YouTube channels, for example. Anyone who's got a passion for football loves Jack Grealish. You know, they understand that to me he's the most complete of those players, those attacking midfielders that England has. Whereas the other ones seem to have one thing to do well. He seems to have multiple things that he can do well. He can play as a 10, he can play wide,
Mhm.
he can run in, he can gather the ball, he can hold on to it. I'd really love to see him get some game time. I do think it sounds a bit the thing is, like, who do you drop? Like, there's so many players. No one's particularly playing well. You could even argue Kane shouldn't start. Maybe you put Sancho on the right and have Dominic Calvert-Lewin head balls, and I don't know. But you'd think Harry Kane would start as captain. But if you had Grealish and Sancho wide, do you then just play Declan Rice as a sole defensive midfielder and have two midfielders pushing forward, or do you still stick with Phillips because Phillips got roasted against Scotland, even though we were praising him to the high heavens after Croatia? The nature of the English press doesn't as in not the pressing, but the football press, the journalists, uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
doesn't help that
Media,
well.
yeah,
But I do think that England need to be more unpredictable in attack. It was very predictable, and Sancho and Grealish strike me as the two most unpredictable players that they have in terms of the tricks and the thought process and the way they go about doing things in those wide positions.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It is interesting to know what Southgate is thinking, not playing Sancho, and for multitude of reasons. But I think it's well analyzed there, man. I want to get straight to it now. Who do you think comes out? I don't need scores, but who do you think comes out on top? The top two, assuming that the third place doesn't go through. Who's coming out on top two tomorrow morning?
I actually do think it'll be a draw. So I think both of them go. The Czech Republic and England go through. Low scoring draw. I'm going to go one
Okay.
all. I do think England have a goal in them, but the Czechs cannot be underestimated. They're a team that's greater than
Hmm.
for their parts. I think they'll actually have a pretty good run. They'll be very hard to beat
And
in the knockouts. I do think Croatia will nick it over Scotland. But
yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
yeah, so that's probably
But
us.
I have to say I think England do the number. I think Southgate will change stuff. Will change things tonight, and I think you will see England win. It'll be a very boring win, but I think you do see a win. You need to see Sancho. We need to see Sancho play. Rashford. I'm kind of happy Rashford's not playing because I don't think he brings much more than Sancho does. He brings a lot to United, and he needs the rest. He needs the surgery. He needs the rest. Rashford's not going to change much for England. I don't think so. So, he's not going to bring much more than Sancho's bringing. So, that's a nice to see that for United fans. Nice to see him rested and, you know, ready for next season. But I do agree with those analysis.
I'll ask you a quick one. Say Mason Mount's not playing. Who plays as number 10?
Mm.
Or do England go and play Rice with Bellingham and Phillips in front of them?
Yeah, no, I was actually thinking Bellingham. You could see, ooh, who you play. Well, you'd play Sancho, Grealish, Mount because Mount plays out in number 10.
Now
So you'd have a
England have
Sancho.
got a because I that's why I'm specific about Mount. England have put it's their own quarantine that they've placed on what's his name, Chidwell and Mount. So he could play Mount, but if they keep the thing in play,
Mm,
Mount's not playing. So who do you think goes into that
yeah.
10 slot? Or do they change the formation and play with two eights?
I think they changed the formation, play Bellingham, play like a Rice, Phillips, Bellingham sitting in the three. Bellingham does a lot of the pushing of the ball around.
Mm.
Sancho, Foden, Grealish, those kind of players. Two of those three playing out wide. Yeah, it's very hard. Southgate is frustrating if you're an England fan. If you're watching as an English fan and thinking these changes aren't being made, these players are playing shit. It's hard to drop Kane, but we can analyze it to death, but he has to play those players who take risk from the get go. Some managers have a theory. I'll play the risk taking plays when the other team is tired. That's why Grealish comes on with 25 to go. But the fact of the matter is, Grealish has brought the best out of a Villa team that should have been relegated 2 seasons ago. So I'm a
I
big
feel
fan of
out of
Grealish.
all of those guys, and I'm even including Kane in there, strikes me as the most talismanic. He is a leader.
Yeah, yeah.
Still, I don't think of as a leader. Rashford, not really. Only Kane out of those attacking players, apart from Grealish, I think is a leader. So I think that that's quite important. The effect of leadership is quite underrated.
Yeah, he's the best attacking player in that team. Best, yeah, the most unpredictable, the best, and talismanic is the word where you just know something's going to happen if he's on the pitch more most of the Harry Kane. All right, perfect, Sham. Any closing thoughts for Group D?
No, I'm quite interested in the Croatia Scotland. We focused a lot more on the England game here, but I'm quite interested in that Croatia Scotland game as well. I don't see Scotland making
Yeah,
it through, but they'll give a very good account of themselves. I just think Croatia will have a moment of magic in them, probably from Modric, um, and it'll be probably those three that go through.
perfect. All right, thanks so much for watching, guys. This was the Group D analysis for Euro 2021, Euro 2021, the round three of fixtures: England versus Czech Republic and Scotland versus Croatia. Look, it's going to be a cracker. Any team can go through, and be sure to catch the games. And thanks for listening as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We are the 5 Year Pass Podcast. My name is Suddy. This is Sham. Keep football simple, and as always,
Keep passing, guys. Cheers.